Enterprise Redefinition, a novel of reinventing the corporation. A management novel, Part 2, written by Naoki Kadowaki. About this story. This book is the sequel to the business novel Future Value Theory, a story of the value of the future. In Part 1, Kamiya arrived at a single theory, future value. A company, he came to understand, is an entity that turns a society's shared expectations of the future into reality. Profit is not the goal, it is the result. And yet a theory on its own changes nothing. A theory means something only when it is put into practice. Part 2 is the story of that practice. This time, Kamiya sets out to use his theory for others and for the next generation. Purpose, business, organization, capital, leadership. One by one, he redefines the 5 dimensions that make up a company through the lens of future value. That is what is meant by enterprise redefinition. His dialogue with VURA, the AI that never gives answers, only questions, continues. And the story opens outward, beyond the revival of a single company, toward a far larger question. This work is fiction. The characters, companies, and organizations that appear in it bear no relation to any that actually exist. Prologue. The second notebook. A year had passed. Next shift had changed. From the day of that shareholders' meeting, the company had quietly and yet fundamentally become a different company. A culture that celebrated the attempt. An organization in which people and AI were driven by hope. A form of business that drew the future together with its customers. The 5 words Kamiya had written in his first notebook, Future Value Theory, were no longer slogans pinned to a wall. They had become the company's breathing. The numbers followed after. The profit margin everyone had feared would fall reached a new record the following year. Turnover dropped to the lowest in the industry. Talented young people lined up to join. The business magazines ran another feature. This time the headline read, "The company that earned profit by not chasing it." But Kamiya knew that the world was conveniently misunderstanding him. Future value, so in other words, it pays off in the long run, is that it? How many executives had said that to him with a knowing look after a lecture? No, he would think, the order is reversed. You do not chase future value in order to make a profit. You make future value itself the aim. The difficulty of conveying that single reversal of order was something Kamiya had come to understand painfully well over the past year. Now 36, Kamiya remained alone in the boardroom late that night. Outside the window, the familiar night view of Tokyo. On the desk lay that first notebook. There were no blank pages left in it now. Every one had been filled. Are you satisfied? A blue light was suddenly there. VURA. The AI that gave no answers, only questions, still appeared like this from time to time, even a year on. Hardly, Kamiya laughed. If I were satisfied, you wouldn't come. Exactly, VURA said, softening its light. Your heart is restless again. That is why I am here. Kamiya closed the notebook. The theory is complete. What is future value? That question has been answered. I even proved it at my own company. But? Is this just a special success unique to us? Or something universal? Something that works for any company? I don't know. It could be a fluke. It could be luck. Whether this theory is real can only be proven once it works somewhere other than here. VURA was silent for a while. Then it said, quietly, Professor Ito once said something to you, didn't she? A theory that the one who speaks it does not live out will remain nothing but words on paper. You lived it out, in your own company. But if you truly want to prove the theory, what is the next question you must ask? Kamiya did not answer. He already knew. And then VURA set a notebook on the desk. Or rather, beside the first notebook, a second one appeared, A brand new leather cover, nothing yet written inside. Only on the cover, embossed in gold leaf, were the words, Enterprise Redefinition. You have learned what future value is, VURA said. But how it is created, how a single company, no, how any company is remade into an entity that generates future value, that how is still a blank page. Kamiya stared at the second blank notebook. He remembered the rainy night he had first held the first one. Then, too, everything had been blank. So another journey is beginning, he said. Yes, VURA smiled. But this journey is not yours alone. What that meant, Kamiya would learn the next morning. Chapter 1. Redefinition. A company can be remade. 1. The next morning, a request for a meeting reached Kamiya. The sender was unexpected. Professor Misaki Ito, the very person who had guided him on his first journey. I'd like to see you again after all this time, the message read. And there is someone I'd like you to meet. The place she named was not the university. It was a corner of an old industrial district, about an hour by train from the city centre. When Kamiya stepped out of the taxi, a large but aged factory stood before him. On the gatepost, a weathered copper sign. Tokiwa Manufacturing. Established 1918. 120 years since its founding. An old, established maker that had gone on producing precision instrument components. Kamiya stood for a while before that copper sign. The characters, patinated green by rain and time. 120 years of it, quietly engraved there. It was a depth of time incomparable to his own company, Next Shift, 8 years old. His own firm, called the best in Japan after only 8 years, felt terribly young and terribly light. Could someone like him really save these 120 years? No. Was he even permitted to lay a hand on such a weight of time? A feeling close to awe crossed Kamiya's chest. When he passed through the gate, Professor Ito was waiting. Beside her stood 2 people. One was perhaps in his late 70s, a white-haired old man, back straight, in work clothes. The other was a woman in her 30s, with a composed, keen-eyed, intelligent face. Mr. Kamiya, the professor said, allow me to introduce them. This is the chairman of Tokiwa Manufacturing, Seiichiro Tokiwa, and his granddaughter, the executive director, Kaide Tokiwa. The old chairman bowed deeply. Forgive me for imposing on you like this. The truth is, our company now stands at the edge of a cliff. 2. The chairman's office was a room in which time seemed to have stopped. A heavy wooden desk. On the walls, precision components from across the generations, displayed like works of art. It was the opposite of Kamiya's own office of glass and metal. And yet there was the same weight of time here that he had felt in that great Zelkova tree at the university. We have made precision components for 120 years, the chairman began quietly. There are a great many machines in this world that will not run without our parts. Medical devices, satellites, analytical instruments. In places unseen, we have supported society. That was our pride. But Chairman, Kaede said, taking up the words, she sounded a little bitter. That pride no longer carries us. Our technology is genuine. I believe our craftsmen are the best in Japan. But sales have fallen for 10 years straight. One client after another switches to cheaper overseas makers or to AI-controlled automated factories. Our largely hand-worked production cannot win on cost. And so, Kamiya asked, what is it you want from me? It was Kaide, not the chairman, who answered. A fund has made us a buyout offer. Argyle Partners. Their argument is this. We buy Tokiwa Manufacturing, fully automate the factory with the latest AI, dismiss every craftsman. Production efficiency triples, the company turns a profit within 2 years. Looking only at the numbers, they're right, but... Kaide's voice trembled. If we do that, We stop being Tokiwa manufacturing. 3. Kamiya was silent for a time. The man I was a year ago, he thought. A year ago, I would have said exactly what the fund is saying. Automate. Craftsman a sentiment. Efficiency is everything. I believe that was sound management. But now it was different. Chairman, Kamiya said, may I ask you one question?